Lads, welcome back to Fusion YGO. It is your boy Christian, the Haver Card Man, and we are back at it with another combo tutorial today. Bringing you guys the combo tutorial for my mid-range Scrap Orcust build. A lot of you have requested this, and actually the deck profile you guys have really been enjoying, which is super awesome. Keep up the awesome support. You guys are amazing. If you haven't seen the deck profile for this yet, go check out the card up here in the top corner and make sure you watch that first so you understand the context of this deck. But we'll go ahead and just jump right into things today. But before we do, I suppose I should say, if you guys do enjoy this content, you want to see more in the future, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, because we are going to be doing a lot more comment tutorials and deck profiles here in the coming weeks with some really awesome and spicy stuff. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, let's go ahead and get in. So what I have here on the table, this is a full hand of all one-card combos. Any of these cards could get you into full combo. If you're going first with the Scrap Raptor, Recycler, and Scrap Yard options, you will need a card to be able to set on field to get destroyed by Scrap Wyvern. So technically, those are 1.5 card combos if you're going first. But this deck is more aimed at going second, so your opponent is most likely going to have a card on field that you can pop. So at that point, then it goes back to being a one-card combo. Urgent Schedule is also only a going second combo card because your opponent needs to control a monster. The only exception to be is if you're playing against Tearlament and they somehow get a Havness on field without you having any monsters. So that would be the only case in which Urgent Schedule could come up on turn 1. But anyways, we're just going to do this combo with just a normal Scrap Recycler, because that's the easiest way to do it. I mean, in terms of the rest of the hand here, Scrap Yard and Scrap Raptor end up doing the same thing. There's just a couple more steps involved to getting to the Scrap Recycler and having the rest of the combo go off like normal. Urgent Schedule goes to the Scrap Recycler combo as well. It just gets you an extra body during your turn, and it saves your normal summon. So if you guys want, I can do a separate combo with this later. That is perfectly fine, but I probably, for the sake of this video, won't worry about it. We're just going to stick to the simple Scrap combo that gets this whole thing online. And then the Gearsu is just a one-card Orcust combo. It's literally just dump Orcust Nightmare, make 2 tokens, turn one of them into a Link monster, like a Link Karibo or a Link Spider, and then making Galatea before using your Nightmare, dumping World Wand, etc., normal Orcust plays. The Scrap combo is the part that gets spicy. So let's go ahead and just start with the Scrap Recycler and get going today. So what we're going to do here is we are going to take our Scrap Recycler, give it a good old normal summon, and then depending on what we have in our hand, we'll change up the first mill of the turn. Usually it can be something like Machina Fortress. If you have other machines in your hand that you can discard to get Fortress out of the field, which Fortress is really good in this deck, because if your hand gets clogged up with a lot of high-level Orcust monsters, you want to be able to free them up and just have Machina Fortress be able to discard them for you. But in this case, we're assuming we don't have anything else, so we are going to dump the Crystron Rosenix, the honorary scrap monster. So what we can do now is take our Crystron Rosenix, use its effect to banish it from the graveyard in order to summon a token to our field. And then now with these two, we can link summon with the Scrap Recycler and the token being able to go into our Scrap Wyvern. Sides don't necessarily matter as much with this combo anymore. They used to with previous versions of like the super heavy combo build, but in the mid-range build, it doesn't really matter too much. I just prefer going on the left side for this. It usually seems a little bit easier to build the board that way. So just something for you to keep in mind. So now that we have Wyvern on field, once again, we're going to assume we're going second, so our opponent's going to have something on their field. So we'll use Scrap Wyvern's effect to be able to resummon our Scrap Recycler from the graveyard and pop it immediately with Wyvern's effect. Then we'll activate Wyvern's second effect to special summon a Scrap monster from the deck here. So we're going to special summon Scrap Golem at this point, and then on resolution of Wyvern's second effect, we'll be able to pop a card on our opponent's field. Then when that's done, now we can use Scrap Golem to revive Scrap Recycler from our graveyard. Doesn't really matter where we put him. And at this point, we're going to activate his effect again, this time milling a World Legacy World Wand, because this will get us access to the next part of this combo here. We're going to link our Scrap Golem and Scrap Recycler, now that we have a World Legacy monster in graveyard, to be able to go into a Lib, the World Keep Blade Master. Now with her effect, we can go ahead and use that to set a World Legacy Succession from the deck here. Sorry, I keep forgetting I stacked the deck already to have it prepared. So set World Legacy Succession with Lib's effect here, and then right away we're actually just going to activate that so that we can summon back Scrap Golem, and then use Scrap Golem's effect on resolution to summon the Scrap Recycler back to field. Now, Scrap Golem does have to go into Lib's arrow because World Legacy Succession makes you put it into a Link monster's arrow, but Scrap Recycler doesn't matter. You can put that one wherever. Now with Scrap Recycler, you're going to want to go ahead and dump Orcust Nightmare from your deck to the grave, giving you full Orcust combo setup, and you can even do like some extra stuff with it. But we're going to take it a step further. We're going to take the Scrap Recycler, Scrap Golem, and Scrap Wyvern. All 3 are Earths, 1 of them Machine, 1 Rock, and 1 Dragon. This gives us full setup to go into Curious, the Lightsworn minion. Once again, arrows don't matter too much here. You can put Curious in the left EMZ, you can put it in the right, or you can put it in Lib's arrow. Really doesn't matter here, so we'll just leave it there. And with Curious, you have tons of different options, but if you're going second and you're pushing for game, going for the OTK, what you're going to want to do here, what you're most likely going to want to do here is mill Orcust Symbol Skeleton, and I'll explain this in just a second. So we'll let Symbol Skeleton go to the grave, and then mill 3 from Curious, just 3 inconsequential mills. In this case, they're just all spell cards, nothing fancy. So then now what we can do from here, if we really want to push for game, is we don't really have a whole lot set up on field, but we have a lot in our graveyard. So if we are pushing for game going second, what we would do in this case is be able to use Curious and Lib, linking them off together for an access code talker. And then on Access Code Talker's summon, you can actually use Lib to be able to shuffle a card on the field back into the deck, and then chain Access Code Talker as Link 2, or as Chain Link 2, so then that way your opponent can't respond, and then you'll be able to use Access Code Targeting Curious, so he'll gain 3,000 attack, and then after his effect resolves, Lib can shuffle a card on the field back into the deck, non-targeting, non-destruction removal, absolutely crazy to help break boards. And then after that, Access Code Talker already has 2 pops for you. You have an Earth and a Light engraved right off the bat. So you can already get 2 pops right there that your opponent can't respond to. So that's already a really strong start. And then we're not even done with the combos here yet. So what we're going to do at this point now is we're going to activate our Orcust Nightmare in Graveyard, going to banish itself here. And then now we are going to send from our deck to the graveyard. Let me just think here. So with Orcust Nightmare, we're going to send Machina Ruin Force from our deck to the graveyard, targeting Access Code Talker. So Access Code Talker is going to gain 1,000 attack points from Machina Ruin Force, putting him at 6,300 now. And then really all you need to do, if your opponent's board is clear, then all you have to do to finish this up at this point is just banish your World Legacy World Wand and your Orcust, either your Orcust Symbol Skeleton, well actually you'd have to do Symbol Skeleton and Scrap Recycler. Earlier on the Curious Mill, if you prefer to, you could, instead of Symbol Skeleton, be able to do Gearsu, the Orcust Mech Knight, or you can even do one of your level 10 machines that's in the deck, either the Heavy Freight Train, Derek Crane, or the Jizukiru. Those are options as well. In this case, we would need to banish all 3 of these, unfortunately, because I didn't do my math incorrectly. But this is just the OTK option. Like, this is going absolutely overboard. Because now on board here, you have over 10,000 points of attack, and then you also have a battle phase negate. So as long as you got your opponent's board clear, you don't need to worry about really much back row with Ruin Force, like any sort of battle traps or even battle hand traps. He'll be able to protect you there, and then also take away half of your opponent's life points before you even finish the attack, which is just insane. But let's say we don't want to go the OTK route. We're just trying to break our opponent's board and establish our own. So we'll go ahead and reset here. We'll just go back to the point where Orcust Nightmare banishes itself, targeting the access code. And honestly, the access code could be different too. If you don't want to use that to break the board, you absolutely don't have to. You could just leave the Lib and Curious on field and save them as link fodder. In fact, we will actually probably go that way, because usually you're summoning access code if you're actually pushing for the OTK. We'll go ahead and put our Lib and Curious back on field, banish the Orcust Nightmare from the graveyard here. Sorry, the banish pile's kind of got some glare on it. So now at this point, since we already have Symbol Skeleton engraved from the Curious, now we can actually mill our Gearsu at this point instead of the Machina Ruin Force, because we can always get Machina Ruin Force out of the graveyard later with Nightmare by being able to. So now what we can do at this point here is we actually have a couple different options. What I'm going to say is going to be the best way to go about this is we're going to use Symbol Skeleton banishing itself to summon Gearsu, the Orcust Mech Knight, to our field, and then use his effect to go ahead and send from our deck to graveyard. At this point, we're probably going to send an Orcust Nightmare, just so that we make sure that we have one loaded up in our graveyard and ready to go. Might not be 100% necessary, but it'll be handy just to have it. And then now from here, we can activate our World Legacy World Wand, banishing itself, and then we will summon back the Orcust Symbol Skeleton, because we're going to want this for our opponent's turn to summon back the Gearsu to get more disruption. So then now we can take our Symbol Skeleton and our Gearsu, to link up into our Galatea. Once again, doesn't even matter where you put this. If you had Curious in one of the EMZs, you can put it in the Libero or vice versa. It really doesn't matter. But as long as you make sure Galatea is linked, then you're all good, because it's just bonus. I mean, it's not really necessary, but in case anything comes up, it is nice to know. So now we'll go ahead and use Galatea's effect. We are actually going to shuffle back probably the Christian Rosenix in this situation, simply because we already have a Nightmare in Graveyard, and we do have another World Wand in the deck, so we can always recycle these two later. But Rosenix would be handy to have just in case we end up drawing into another scrap monster like Scrap Raptor or Scrap Recycler, and we just need something to be able to get our combo started over again. So we'll shuffle the Rosenix back to set our Orchestrated Babble to field here. You could go for Crescendo if you really wanted to have a negate, but in this situation, I would much rather be able to just flip the Babble and then overlay Galatea into our Dingirsu. And then with Dingirsu, on his summon, you can either choose to use his effect to send a card your opponent controls in the graveyard, or you can use him to reattach a banished material as Exceed material, but you don't need to do that. I mean, in this case, you already have everything you need in the graveyard still set up and ready to go, so that's not really much of a concern. The only thing I would say that I could have played differently about this board would be leaving another regular monster on field to turn Dingirsu into IP. But in this case, we'll just say that we were trying to break our opponent's board some more, so we just ended up using Dingirsu's effect to send a card to the graveyard. And if we really needed to break the board in that case, then instead of like using the Symbol Skeleton as link material for that Galatea, we could have used the Lib as well. Doesn't really matter, because then we would have been able to shuffle a card on field. The alternate option is if we didn't really need to break the board that much, then we can say we did use the Symbol Skeleton. And then Dingirsu, instead of sending to the grave, was just able to reattach a World Wand just so we had more options. So this board is like nothing terrible. Ideally, you would want to end with an IP Masquerena instead of the Dingirsu, which is the only reason I was saying I'd rather have the Symbol Skeleton on field. So basically, it would end up looking like this. And then you would link your Symbol Skeleton and Dingirsu, getting all of those guys into the graveyard, which actually really helps to go into an IP Masquerena. So this way you have stuff that you can do on your opponent's turn. It is good to leave the Curious on field, though, because when you use the Nightmare during the opponent's turn, it'll actually get you an extra 3 mils out of it, which could end up really, really helping you. So there's a ton of different options. The reason like I had to go through so many different lines and think about so many different things is because this mid-range version has so much more versatility than the combo version did, and honestly I feel like it has more gas because it doesn't need to rely on as many bricks. So with the versatility and lines that it does have, I think it actually ended up working out a lot better. And look at that, just from one turn we like filled up our graveyard here. So this deck can do some pretty crazy things as long as the normal summon is allowed to go through, basically, which I know is pretty sacky for a lot of people, but this wasn't necessarily meant to be like a top tier competitive deck. It's just meant to be like my fun rogue deck that can do some things. So if you guys enjoy this combo tutorial, please let me know down in the comments if there's anything you would change about it. Also let me know, I am actually probably going to have an updated profile here before too long in like the coming weeks, because the 2022 Megatins did change a lot. I have a lot of new tech cards that I can actually throw into this now that I didn't have access to before, thanks to budget. So stick around for that if you guys are interested in the deck. I've been playing around with this for a long time. I love Scraps. I love Orcust. I think it's just a really good combo. I am debating on going for more of a Scrap Machina build, though, and kind of orienting around that play, but we'll see how that goes. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for your time today. Don't forget to hit that like button if you guys did enjoy the video, and be sure to come back in the future for any more deck profiles and combo tutorials that might interest you. All right, catch you guys all in the next one. Remember, good fun. Have fun.